able now to do both YouTube and Facebook on the same thing, so that's pretty good. All right. The book of Ruth, chapter 1, it is customary on Shavuot, thank you, for us to read the book of Ruth. And so, chapter 1. It came to pass in the days when judges were governing, there was a famine in the land. A man went from the town of Bethlehem in Yehudah to dwell in the region of Moab with his wife and his 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Yehudah. They came to the region of Moab and remained there. Then Naomi's husband Elimelech died, so she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one whose name was Orpah, the second, was named Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years. Then those 2, Machlon and Chilion, also died. So the woman was left without her children and her husband. Then she got up, along with her daughters-in-law, to return from that region of Moab, because in the region of Moab she had heard that Adonai had taken note of his people and given them food. So she left the place where she was, along with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they started out on the road to return to the land of Yehudah. So Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May Adonai show you the same kindness that you have shown to the dead and to me. May Adonai grant that you find rest, each of you, in the house of her own husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept loudly. "No," they said to her, "we will return with you to your people." Now Naomi said, "Go back, my daughters. Why should you go with me? Do I have more sons in my womb who could become your husbands? Go home, my daughters. I am too old to have a husband. Even if I were to say that there was hope for me." Josh, I'm having problems with my battery. It just said I'm low. My battery's, it's not hooked up or something. It's not plugged in on the bottom. It's not plugged in. Where were we? Verse 8 again. So Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go, return each of you to your mother's house. May Adonai show you the same kindness that you have shown the dead and to me. May Adonai grant that you find rest, each of you, in the house of her own husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept loudly. "No," they said to her, "we will return with you to your people." Now Naomi said, "Go back, my daughters. Why should you go with me? Do I have more sons in my womb who could become your husbands? Go home, my daughter. I am too old to have a husband. Even if I were to say that there was hope for me, and I could get married tonight and then bore a son, would you wait for them to grow up? Would you therefore hold off getting married? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, for the hand of Adonai has gone out against me." Again, they broke into loud weeping. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. She said, "Look, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Return along with your sister-in-law." Ruth replied, "Do not plead with me to abandon you, to turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May Adonai deal with me, and worse, if anything but death comes between me and you." When she saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she no longer spoke to Ruth about it. So the 2 of them went on until they arrived in Bethlehem. As soon as they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole city was excited because of them, and the women asked, "Is this Naomi?" "Do not call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, since Shaddai has made my life bitter. I went away full, but Adonai has brought me back empty. Why should you call me Naomi, since Adonai has testified against me, and Shaddai has brought calamity on me?" So Naomi and her daughter-in-law Ruth, the Moabitess, returned from the region of Moab. They arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. Chapter 2. Now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side from Elimelech's family, a prominent man of substance whose name was Boaz. Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Please let me go out to the field and glean grain behind anyone in whose eyes I may find favor." Naomi said to her, "Go ahead, my daughter." So Ruth went out and gleaned in the field behind the reapers. She just so happened to be in the field of Boaz, who was from Elimelech's family. Soon after Boaz arrived in Bethlehem, he said to the harvesters, "Adonai be with you." They replied, "May Adonai bless you." Then Boaz asked the foreman of his harvesters, "Whose young woman is this?" "She is a Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the region of Moab," the foreman replied. "She asked, 'Please allow me to glean and gather among the barley sheaves behind the harvesters.' So she came and has been working in the field since morning until now, except for a little while in the shelter." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen to me, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field or even pass on from here, but stay close to my female workers. Keep your eyes on the field that they are harvesting and follow after them. I strongly ordered the young men not to touch you. When you are thirsty, you can go to their jars and drink from the water the young men have drawn." And she fell upon her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes that you have noticed me, even though I am a foreigner?" Boaz replied and said to her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death has been fully reported to me. How you left your father and mother and the land of your birth and came to a people you did not know before. May Adonai repay you for what you have done, and may you be fully rewarded by Adonai, God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." He said, "May I continue to find favor in your eyes, my lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your maidservant, even though I am not one of your maidservants." At mealtime, Boaz said to her, "Come over here and eat some bread, and dip your piece into the wine vinegar." So she sat beside the harvesters, and he held out to her roasted grain. She ate until she was full, and some was still left. When she got up to glean, Boaz gave orders to his workers, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves. Do not humiliate her. Also be sure to pull out some grain for her from the sheaves and leave them for her to pick up, and do not rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening. When she thrashed what she had gathered, there was but an ephah of barley. She carried it back to town, where her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. Ruth took some out and gave her what was left after eating her fill. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean today? Where did you work? May the one who noticed you be blessed." She told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked. She said, "The name of the man for whom I worked is Boaz." So Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "May he be blessed by Adonai, who has not stopped his kindness to the living or to the dead." Then Naomi said to her, "This man is closely related to us, one of our kinsmen redeemers." Then Ruth the Moabitess said, "He even said to me, 'Stay close to my workers until they have finished the entire harvest.'" Naomi answered her daughter-in-law Ruth, "It is good, my daughter-in-law, that you go out with his female workers, so that you will not be harmed in another field." So she stayed close to Boaz's female workers, gleaning until both the barley harvest and the wheat harvest were completed. Meanwhile, she lived with her mother-in-law. Chapter 3. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not be seeking a resting place for you, so it may go well for you? Now, is Boaz, with whose female workers you have been, not our relative? Look, he will be winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. So bathe and perfume yourself, put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. Let it be that when he lies down, and you know the place where he lies down, go, uncover his feet, and lie down there. He will tell you what to do." Ruth answered her, "I will do everything you say." So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law said. After Boaz ate, drank, and was in a good mood, he went to lie down at the far side of the grain pile. So she came to the grain pile quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. Now in the middle of the night, the man was startled and pulled back. To his surprise, a woman was lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Ruth, your handmaid," she answered. "Spread the corner of your garment over your handmaid, for you are a goel, a redeemer." May you be blessed by Adonai, my daughter, he replied. You have made the latter act of loyalty greater than the first by not running after the young men, whether rich or poor. Now, my daughter, do not be afraid. Everything you propose, I will do for you. For everyone in town knows that you are a woman of valor. Although it is true that I am a Goel, there is one who is a closer Goel than me. Stay here tonight, and in the morning, if he will be your Goel, good, let him do so. But if he is not willing to be your Goel, then I will be your Goel myself, as surely as Adonai lives. Lie down until morning. So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could be distinguished from another, for he said, do not let it be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. Then he said, bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out. She held it out, and he poured 6 measures of barley into it, and he put it on her. Then he returned to town. When Ruth came back to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? So Ruth told her all the man had done for her. She said, he gave me 6 measures of barley, for he said, you should not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Wait, my daughter, Naomi said, until you find out how the matter turns out, for he will not rest until he has settled the matter today. Chapter 4. Meanwhile, Boaz had gone up to the gate and sat down there. And all of a sudden, the Goel, about whom Boaz had spoken, passed by. Come over, he called, and sit down here, my friend. So he came over and sat down. Then Boaz took 10 of the town's elders and said, sit down here. So they sat down. Then he said to the Goel, Naomi, who has returned from the region of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belongs to our brother Elimelech. I thought I should inform you, saying, buy it in the presence of the people sitting here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you want to redeem it, redeem it. But if it will not be redeemed, then tell me so that I can know, because there is no one else in line to redeem it. I am after you. I will redeem it, he said. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the field from Naomi's hand, you will also acquire Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the deceased, in order to raise up the name of the deceased over his inheritance. The kinsman said, then I cannot redeem it for myself, or else I might endanger my own inheritance. You take my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. Now, in the past in Israel, one removed his sandal and gave it to another in order to finalize the redemption and transfer of a matter. This was a legal transaction in Israel. So the kinsman said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. Then took off his shoe. Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses today that I have bought from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilion and Machlon. Moreover, I have acquired Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Machlon, to be my wife, in order to raise up the name of the deceased over his inheritance, so that the name of the deceased will not be cut off from his brothers or from the gate of his town. You are witnesses today. All the people at the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. May Adonai make the woman who has come into your house like Rachel and like Leah, who both built up the house of Israel. May you prosper in Ephrat and be renowned in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Yehudah, through the seed that Adonai will give you by this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he went to her, Adonai enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the woman said to Naomi, blessed be Adonai, who has not left you without a Goel today. May his name be famous throughout Israel. Moreover, he will be to you a renewer of life and a sustainer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. Naomi took the child and held it to her bosom and took care of him. The neighboring women gave him a name, saying, a son has been born to Naomi. So they called him Obed. He is the father of Yeseh, the father of David. These are the generations of Perez. Perez fathered Hezron. Hezron fathered Ram. Ram fathered Aminadab. Aminadab fathered Nachshon. Nachshon fathered Salmon. Salmon fathered Boaz. Boaz fathered Obed. Obed fathered Yeseh. Yeseh fathered David. And we add to the list, David fathered Yeshua HaMashiach. He is the father of the Messiah. V'imvu, amen. We'll have a short talk this evening, a Shabbat lesson. Allow me to change gears here just a minute. And so this being Shavuot, and we have waved the challah before Adonai. Some curious things. And the reason that we read the story of Ruth at this time of year is because this is the time of year that story took place. If you remember that she was harvesting, that she was going in the field at the time of between the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, of which time we call the counting of the Omer. And so it was, this is so fantastic, that Boaz instructs his servants to drop omers behind them, handfuls, to drop an omer on purpose behind them, so that she may glean them up. Remember that the counting of the Omer is the starving of the animal in order to strengthen the spiritual. The counting of the Omer. The Omer is that the farmer would go in and he would take out an Omer, a handful of grain away from the livestock, and put it aside to go to the Beit HaMikdash, to go to the temple. And so he was depriving the animal of this grain, not for his own consumption, but the significance of it is that to starve the animal within ourselves, as we were studying last Shabbat and we'll be studying again tomorrow, that the duality, the dual nature of mankind, that we have both the animal nature, the animal instinct in us, and we also have the spiritual nature. As we say in Hebrew, the nefesh bechama, the animal instinct, and the nefesh shamayim, the heavenly instinct, the spiritual side of us. And so we have these two. And for most of mankind, for most of humanity, the strength is given to the animal instinct. And so humanity is following the animal instinct. It is for us to follow the spiritual instinct, to follow the Torah, to follow the Word of God, and to live by it, to have faith, to have emunah, to have trust and confidence in Him. And so this story, so he's starving, in effect, the animal instinct, the selfishness. And you see, not only is Ruth not even known to him, but on top of everything else, she is Moavi. She's a Moabitess. And what do we know about the Moavim? They were not permitted to enter into the lineage of Israel. They were not permitted to enter into the tribe of Israel. That Hashem had said in the Torah, in the book of Devarim, in the book of Deuteronomy, that no Moavi can enter into Israel. Everybody else can, but not them. Not them.
Until 10th generation.
No, for them, never. Nunca, nunca, never.
Ni hasta la 10ª generación.
No, for the others they could, but for Moab, never. He said no. And it causes problems for David Hamelech. It causes problems for David the king. When he becomes king, it causes him problems. Why? Because his grandmother, his great-grandmother, is Moavi. And God said, they shall never enter in. And so since he's a descendant of a Moavi, then Yehudah, Judah, Benjamin, they were willing to accept, Yehudah, Judah, and Levi were willing to accept him as king, but none of the other tribes were. So what happens? Civil war. And so David had to go to war against the other 10 tribes and force them to come in under the kingdom, under Malchut, under the kingdom. They used that as an excuse. And so how did the Ravim justify it? How did the Nevi'im, the prophets, justify David's kingship? Because he said, no Moabite men. And they say, well, he didn't say woman, he said men. So because she's a woman, she can come in. So what is the teaching here? The teaching here is the coming in, the grafting in of a Gentile, the worst of the Gentiles, into Israel. And what is astounding is not only is this the great grandmother of David Hamelech, but she's also the great grandmother of Yeshua Mashiach. Isn't that amazing? That the Messiah comes from this woman. It's also amazing that all of these people are descendants of another wicked woman, a prostitute by the name of Rahab. Rahab in Jericho, remember? Remember when Yehoshua goes out and he's marching around the city. Remember the spies, the 2 spies that are inside? And they go to the house of Rahab and they ask to be hidden, and she lets them down. And they tell her, for saving us, if you will hang out of your window a rope, a red rope, a scarlet rope, then you will be saved. And so when God pushed down the walls, except for the house of Rahab, stood standing. And so Rahab becomes a part of, she becomes accepted into Israel. And she also is then in the tribe of Boaz. She's also in the family of Boaz, who is the family of Oved, who is the family of Yeseh, who is the family of David, who is the family of Shlomo, all the way down, who is also the family of Yeshua HaMashiach. Saying, it's not about our past, it's about our present. It's not about who you were, it's about who you are. It's not about what direction you are going, it's about what direction you're willing to go now, today. Today, it is written, now is the accepted time. Today is the day of salvation. Today, Yom Hayom, Yeshua. Today's the day of Yeshua. Today's the day of salvation. I want to focus on a couple of things here. That a very prominent number in Shavuot is the number 2. And what is the representation of the number 2 in Hebrew? Beit. Beit is the number 2. And Beit means, Bayit means what? House.
House of bread.
House of bread. Beit Lechem is the house of bread. Very good. Very good. We call the temple, when it was standing, it's called the Beit HaMikdash, the holy house, the house of meeting, the house of prayer, Beit Techilim, the house of prayer. And so 2 equals Beit. Watch this. How many trees were in Gan Eden? How many trees were in the Garden of Eden that are mentioned specifically? Now, there's lots of trees. In fact, it was an orchard full of trees. That's what it was. It was full of trees. And of all of the trees of Gan Eden, they could eat. Except what? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, we do not know why they did not eat of the tree of life. The Chasal do not know either. It is a wonder that somehow that God hid it from them or would not permit him. But there were these 2 trees. And God told them, do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. There are 2 trees. But they ate of it anyway. They ate of it anyway. And I will say once again, is it not amazing how it always comes down to food? Food is the test. Why? Because this is one of the greatest animal instincts that we have. Food, eating. We love to eat like a cow, right? I would say like a pig, but they're not kosher. Like a cow, like a sheep. We love to eat. And every time we love to get together and eat. Almost every Shabbat we eat. We have bread. We love to have our onegs, and we love to have our moedim, our festivals. We love to do these things. We love to eat. It's in our nature. This is human nature. Not just human nature. This is nefesh chaya. Remember we spoke about last Shabbat, nefesh chaya, the living being, a living animal. We also are created, as we'll see tomorrow, nefesh chaya. We also have this instinct, this animal instinct, this survival instinct. We have this instinct within us, but this instinct is the one that we have to fight down so that the nefesh shamayim can rise, so that the spirit within us can rise and become strong and powerful. And so they did eat. How many tablets were there at Har Sinai? Two tablets. And so half of the commands were written on one side, half of the commands were written on the other side. How many sets of tablets were there? 2. Moshe broke the first and had to redo the second. Right? Shavuot is in effect Yom Huledet LeIsrael, the birthday of Israel. It is at the foot of Har Sinai, it is at the foot of Mount Sinai that Israel is given birth by accepting Torah, by accepting the covenant of Adonai. And it is this day that he gave them Torah. And it is this day that they accepted Torah. And so, this is in effect the birthday of Israel. It would be at this time then that Moshe would come down and find them worshiping the golden calf, and he would break the tablet. And God would call him back up on the mountain and cause him to recarve the tablet. An amazing thing about the tablet, just a few amazing things that I'll give you. Concerning the first tablet, that the Chasal, the sages tell us, that this tablet was carved, first of all, was carved from the throne of God himself. That God carved this tablet out from under his throne. That it was sapphire. That it was carved out of sapphire from under the throne, from beneath the throne. How many of you have seen a sapphire? You know what color sapphire is? Huh? It's blue. Almost the blue of Cody's kippah. It's the blue of the flag right over there. See the flag of Israel there? It is that color blue. It's techelet. The color of blue on your tzitzit. Okay? It is that color blue. That's the color that the first tablets were created. It was a gem, a royal gem. Which means what? Number one, what do we know about things like sapphires and diamonds and rubies and emeralds? You can see through them, and they sparkle and shine. And so the first tablet, carved by the very hand of God, was this royal blue. Can you imagine the light of God or the light of the sun shining through this thing? And it would sparkle. And then as well, it was not carved in the way that a man would carve it. Rather, it was carved on the inside. It was engraved on the inside, but not on the outside. So if you were to touch the outside of the tablet, it would be smooth. And yet the writings, the letters, were on the inside. It is also written, and I can't remember, I believe it is the shin in it, turns with the tablet. That it hovered. All of the letters appeared to hover in the tablet, so that no matter, but the sheen, no matter which way you looked at it, the sheen would be facing the proper direction. So if you turn the tablet backwards, you could still see the letters through it, but it would be written backwards. But the sheen would always be facing the front. Now, this is what the Chasal tell us concerning this tablet. This is what Moshe threw down and broke. This beautiful tablet we call Tiferet. What does Tiferet mean? Beautiful. The beautiful one. The beautiful one. And Tiferet, in the tree of life, Tiferet is what? And Tiferet, in the tree of life, you go up the tree of life, and you come up to the middle, Tiferet, you come to the first one, and you have Malchut. The second one is, I don't remember. Huh? Yesod, very good. And then you have the school. And very good. It's been a while since I've taught. But Tiferet is up here. No. So you have Malchut. Malchut is the domain of, Malchut is the realm, the domain of Shekhinah. And who is always with Shekhinah? Always goes along with Shekhinah. So Tiferet is the realm of Mashiach. Tiferet is Mashiach. Okay? Watch. How many Messiahs are there? 2. There are 2 Messiahs. Mashiach ben Yosef, yes. And Mashiach ben David. 2 Messiahs. Echad, 1. Yet 2. And Mashiach ben Yosef, we know him as what? Son of man? The suffering servant. Isaiah 53. The suffering servant. That he was beaten for us. That he was put to death on our account. That he was broken for us and bruised for us. What happened? And which Mashiach has been Yosef? Is this the first or the second? First. Who has to come first? Ben Yosef has to come first, so that Ben David can come. Which tablet got broken? The first. Yeshua is the tablet of the law. And he's the first one that is given. And even as Moshe threw down the tablet and it broke, so also Yeshua is thrown down and broken on our behalf, on our account. The second tablet, well, Yochanan says, because everybody's, a lot of people are looking for the ark, and they say, well, we know where the ark is, and this and all of these kinds of things. But Yochanan tells us where the ark is. In the book of Revelation, he says, and I saw the ark in the temple of God in heaven. What was in the ark? The manna, Aaron's rod, and the tablet. These 3. 3? Interesting. Watch. So the one that Moshe carved is gone. Yochanan says he sees it in the temple of God in heaven. Not the one that God made, but the one that was human made. So even as Mashiach ben Yosef does what? He ascends. How far ago? 10 days ago from today. He ascended. And what? To return as Mashiach ben David, as the Messiah, son of David. So in John chapter 1, we're almost done. If you would turn there, please. John chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and apart from him, nothing was made that has come into being. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overpowered it. There came a man sent from God whose name was John, Yochanan. He came as a witness to testify about the light, so that through him everyone might believe. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness concerning the light. The true light coming into the world gives light to every man. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, but the world did not know him. He came to his own, but his own did not receive him. But whoever did receive him, those trusting in his name, to these he gave the right to become children of God. They were born not of bloodline, nor of human desire, nor of man's will, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We looked upon his glory, the glory of the one and only, from the Father, full of grace and truth. And so Yeshua, of whom John is speaking, Yochanan is speaking here, Yeshua describes him as in the beginning was the Word. What is the Word? This is the Word. This is the Word. Saying what? Yeshua is the Torah. This is why we bow. We're not worshiping an idol. It is to Yeshua Mashiach, the King of Kings, before whom we bow. There are those who do not understand Judaism, who think that we're worshiping like the Torah scroll has become an idol to us, and so we bow and we show such deference to it and such honor to it. And no, it's not the parchment and the wood. It is what the Torah represents, the King of Kings. This is his law. Even as an ambassador, in days before, as he would go before, as an ambassador would go before his king to receive his the message to give to another king, to give to another nation or another people. And so as he would be receiving that scroll from his king, he would bow before the king, and his mission to do was to do what was in that scroll. In the military, officers are given their orders, and they salute after receiving their orders. They salute. Are they saluting the order? No, they're saluting the authority. And so we give honor to the king, to the authority, and then thus this is his word, to the authority of his word over us. Yeshua is the Torah. Since Yeshua is the Torah, what does this do with the idea that the Torah has been done away with? If Torah is done away with, then Yeshua is done away with. If the Torah is no longer for us, then what we're saying is that Yeshua is no longer for us because he is the Torah. This is the word. In the beginning, you can put it this way, in the beginning was the law. And the law was with God, and the law was God. You can read it that way. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made through him, and apart from him, nothing was made that has come into being. In the law was life, and the law was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overpower. And what does the prophet do? A prophet reveals the law. The whole purpose of the prophets of old were to reveal the law, to enforce Torah. And so, speaking of Yochanan, he came as a witness to testify about the light, about the law, so that through him everyone might believe. He was not the light, the law, but he came bearing witness concerning the light, the law. The true light, the true law, coming into the world, gives light to every man. He was in the world was made through him, but the world did not know him. Remember what the Chazal say. What do the sages say concerning Torah? That when God wanted to give the Torah to the world, that he approached every nation. There are 70 nations. He approached every nation and offered to them Torah, and every nation refused it except Israel at this time. And the reason why God gave Torah to Israel is because Israel said, yes, we will do and we will hear. We will listen and we will obey. And so God gave it to them. But the world did not know him. He came to his own, but his own did not receive him. Whoever does receive him, those trusting in his name, Yeshua, salvation, to these he gave the right to become children of God. They were born not of a bloodline, not of human desire, not of man's will, but of God. And the law became flesh and dwelt among us. What? He lived the law, the Torah. That's what it means to fulfill. He was the living Torah. He lived it in front of us. Not so that we didn't have to live it. That's foolishness in thinking. Rather, so that we would know how to live it. That we would follow his example. Even as Rav Shaul says, as I follow after Yeshua, you follow after me. We looked upon his glory, the glory of the one and only from the Father, full of grace and truth. And so, these two, you have the number 2 on this day. So what do? We lift up 2 chalot, and we wave them before God. Why? Because in chapter 6 of Yochanan, Yeshua would tell the people, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. Anochi lechem chayim. I'm the living bread. If any man eats of me and drinks from me, they will never hunger again and they will never thirst again. This is Shavuot. One last comparison for you. And that is this. Shavuot is also a duality. And again, the number 2. Because on Shavuot, first we have the giving of Torah at Har Sinai, at Sinai. And number 2, we have in Acts chapter 2, the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh, the spiritual Torah given to us, also on this day. There's a duality there. Remember what happened on Har Sinai? What fell upon the mountain? Fire. You remember the book of Acts chapter 2? What fell upon the Talmudim? Fire. Just before this, just before God gives the instruction in Leviticus concerning Shavuot, he instructs, it was at this time period that the fire comes down from heaven and lights the altar that Aaron and his sons have put on the altar. And there they are serving the Lord, and the fire comes down from heaven, whoosh, and receives the sacrifice. And remember Nadav and Abinadab, the sons of Aharon, in their happiness, in their gratitude, after a few drinks, they get a little too happy, a little too full of themselves. And they want to make sure that the fire on the altar has not gone out. This is the fire of God himself, and they want to make sure it hasn't gone out. And so they go from their encampment, they take their own fire. The fire comes off of the altar and kills them dead, consumes them. The Chazal say that it enters their mouth first, and it consumes them from the inside out, like a microwave. Strange fire. And so shortly before he gives his instructions on how to celebrate, on what we're supposed to do for Shavuot, God gives to Moshe the instructions on the fire of the altar. And that you're not permitted to bring your own fire. As it were, when we come into assembly, when we come into synagogue, we're to leave the animal nature outside the door. And only bring in that which is spiritual and holy. Now you have to bring this flesh in you, but you see, what does Rav Shaul tell us in the book of Romans? To put it to death. To put it to death. And so I just wanted to share with you tonight some of these insights in Shavuot for us to think about. So in conclusion, we will be having service in the morning. We will be having the Kabbalat Shabbat also on Erev Shabbat from here on out, unless we let you know otherwise, but we will be celebrating, and so we invite you to come and join with us for all of the services that you can. Let us stand for the blessing, and then we will have Kiddush. If you would lift up your hands. Yivarech Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er panav elecha v'yikunecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai be gracious to you and shine his face upon you. May Adonai lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. From Sar HaShalom Yeshua Mashiach v'invu. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Hugo, you wanted to say something? I'm sorry. I forgot. Did you want to say something? You had a comment or something?
When you mentioned the tree of life,
Yes.
remember Bereshit?
Yes.
The text said there was the tree of life and the tree of knowledge